to talk about Normal People, the show. I watched it maybe, right now it's Monday. I think I watched it sometime maybe at the beginning of last week, so around like maybe a week ago. And I really liked the show. Obviously the show came out in 2020, so, you know, a little bit late, and apparently it's quite big actually in 2020. But I'm just coming, I just found it. I forget how. I think this is actually really funny. There's a big Twitter account called Synesthetic. I don't know, the account does like movie stills pretty much, like aesthetic movie stills, and like I'll put quotes underneath them. Usually, often the quotes are completely different from what is actually said in the scene, but you know, I sometimes see the posts on my feed because my Twitter account is basically all just like aesthetic images that I use for reference photos, pretty much. And well, not all, but I although it can be a little bit distasteful, I do enjoy the aesthetic pictures anyway. So I'm pretty sure I saw a like still from Normal People, and often like when I'm when I'm trying to add an image to my reference library, I'll like do a reverse Google search, or I'm pretty sure Synesthetic like gives the credit to where the images are from. And anyways, I got to the source one way or another, and for some of the movie stills that I use as reference images, I will sometimes add, like after doing a little bit of research, I will add the show or the TV show or the animated movie or the movie to my watch list. And I don't know why my list is quite long, and I don't know why I gravitated towards Normal People so much, but I think I was just in the mood for a show, and I just got on my chair in my room and sat down, put on the good headphones, and started watching. And it was good at first. I was like, well, I'm getting pulled in. The show starts out, there's gonna be spoilers, by the way, probably, maybe, I don't know, wherever my mind takes me. The show starts out with, it seems like a normal high school, well, it's set in Ireland, so I don't know what they would call it. I guess secondary school? I don't know. Anyway, it seems like a sort of like high school drama, pretty much. And I was laughing at some points. There's two main characters, Marianne and Connell, and Marianne is very funny in the first couple episodes. She has, it's like a very good sense of humor combined with this emotional, like vulnerability. It's very endearing, and just sort of her character as a whole. But in the first part of the show, it's played to an extent where the character feels more her, I guess her bite backs, her little jabs, seem to come from a place of sassiness or attitude or spunkiness, rather than from in the later parts of the show. It seems like her jabs often become a source, like often come from a place of trauma, or she often, I think she loses a lot of her jabs. She sort of shuts down. Even like after the first 3 episodes, the jabs don't come as frequently. And yeah, for sure, I would say. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent already. I was really enjoying that part of the character in the first 3 episodes of the show, which is all during their secondary school days. I'll just put in like good old-fashioned American terms. Even though this is just ignorance on my part, but yeah, I think Ireland is like a big part of this show, according to some like reviews that I read. There's like very specific Irish things that anyway. I was laughing a little bit. I was chuckling. I was enjoying the characters, the banter, the drama. I was enjoying, and after the conclusion of the 3rd episode, I was really enjoying it. I was hooked, but I was still a little bit, I would say, disassociated in the fact that, when you enjoy a show, it's a little bit different from getting pulled into a story. There's like a little part of your brain that is encouraging you to react, and you can almost know the reaction and enjoy reacting to your own reaction, if that makes any sense, in your own head. Anyway, and then after the 3rd episode, I think I just sort of slipped into it, or maybe midway through the 3rd episode, I lost myself in the show, and it's a feeling that I don't really get often, if at all. I don't think I've ever been pulled in like that for maybe, I don't know, maybe like 4 or 5 years. It was very touching, the show. A lot of the experiences, they didn't directly connect to me, obviously. I haven't been to university yet, but some parts of the show really connected with me in terms of like my own life experiences, and I really started to get absorbed in the world. And over the course of like the 6 hours that I watched almost continuously, I had to take a break too, work on the garden for a little bit, but you know, and I definitely feel, that small break to work in the garden definitely broke my immersion a little bit. When I watch a show, I like to try and keep it as immersed as possible, especially if I'm watching like a very serious show, just to like stay immersed in the story for as long as possible, so that you can get all the rising and falling actions, and get to that emotional catharsis, as if you're watching like a very long movie. I was focused throughout the whole thing. My attention didn't wander too much. It was, and I'll probably like talk about certain plot beats later, or like some analysis or whatever, but for me the show was very special. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and it was just, now that I've had like about a week to like mull it over, to think on it, I was in absolute, I was just out of it after the show ended, just thinking, sitting in silence, in my own head, just constantly rereading the Wikipedia page for more information, listening to the music. Actually, the one thing that I didn't do was look at any sort of interviews, of the main cast, just to, because obviously, once you see the cast, it's like the immersion breaks, and you realize it was just a story. Yeah, and another tangent. When you're reading a story versus like watching a show, because you can see interviews with the actors and the actresses, that bring the show to life, and it makes it almost a less. For some shows, it can enhance the experience, and for other shows, it can dampen the experience, of being immersed in a story. Books less so have this problem for me. You can imagine the characters in the books exist in a world entirely inside your own head, whereas actors and actresses obviously are real people with real lives, and for me it's hard to like sort of believe the story anymore, or disregard the actor's entire life just to like uphold this certain part that they've played. And so I tried to avoid that as much as possible. And I just really, really loved it. I really, really loved the show. I legitimately think there wasn't a bad performance in it. The cinematography was also very subtle. Obviously, I wasn't paying attention to it much because I was so engrossed in the story and the characters, but the acting was absolutely fantastic, from pretty much from everyone. Often things aren't spelled out, There's like, it's like a common trope that, normal people is just like two people who just can't communicate at all for like a stupid amount of time. But it's very realistic, I think, in the way, at least I go about my daily life, and how misunderstandings are actually misunderstandings in the moment, because we have the omniscient in the show, but like you have the reader's point of perspective or the viewer's point of perspective, because you know both sides, you know certain interactions that the other characters might not know. For some people, it might create a sense of frustration. For me, it just was solemn and very sad and realistic, and that was very beautiful to me. Some characters might also become placeholder characters for you and your own experience. In some shows, that's okay, but in this show, the characters were very on their own. They stood on their own. They felt like normal people that definitely do exist. Well, not. They're very unique, but like, it just makes it feel like this is the story, a story that, and maybe everyone has a story as moving and unique and tragic as them. You know, it's it's wonderful. I also will say the intimate scenes in the show. I read that there were complaints about it. I mean, I can understand if you are, you know, I guess like my mom or dad or something, how it would put you off. But or if you're like a parent watching with your kids or something, I don't know. Why would you be doing that? But I don't know. It just but I felt like compared to any other like romantic intimate scene in a different movie or something, it just felt very it felt the scenes felt not necessary but useful. Yeah, useful in understanding the show and the characters. There's obviously also this level of the viewer's eye in all intimate scenes, whether they be physical intimacy or emotional intimacy. There's always the eye of the viewer, you know? And I really felt that the eye of the viewer was absent, for me at least. Or at least the eye of the viewer who was imposing their own emotions on the scene. Yeah, if that makes any sort of sense. Something interesting that I thought about in the show. Marianne has a lot of different exes. A lot of them are very toxic. One is manipulative. One, I mean, Marianne and him just don't get along. And then another one is just a sort of placeholder, empty character who is just sort of he's just sort of like a weird Swedish guy. Yeah, he's just a weird Swedish guy who's into certain things. Yeah. But it gives you an opportunity to sort of just like say, shrug it off and say, well, you know, it just not meant to be. And they're also like assholes, so it's sort of like, you know, well, of course Marianne wasn't supposed to be with these people. And that phrase wasn't supposed to be with. This idea of, I wouldn't call it soulmates, but like, of like, you know, people that just keep bumping into each other over and over again, you know, like pulled by some invisible force, and who are always constantly thinking about each other. And in those situations, it's almost tempting to say, well, you know, screw everything. Screw everyone around you. They're meant to be together, therefore everything is justified in the end. There's also the character of Helen, who is Connell's girlfriend for like about 3 years, I think, in the show. And Connell is still very, like I'm pretty sure he still loves Marianne a lot. And there's still that emotional attachment there, a very strong emotional attachment. Now that I'm speaking this out loud, I'm noticing certain things about my thought process. Yeah, it's just very... Basically, after a certain event, Connell and Helen break up, pretty much. And I think it's like reference that apparently all their arguments come back to the same thing, which is like Connell and how he treats Marianne almost as if she's more important than Helen, which I think in Connell's mind, I think Marianne is a little bit more important to him. I'm pretty sure. Connell treats pretty much everyone around him decently and well. And some people he treats like with apathy, and just general politeness. With Helen in their interactions in the show, it feels like there's a separation between them. And it's not that I'm gonna say Connell treated her badly. It's more that you wonder what happened to her, to Helen. You wonder if she was just an obstacle, and that was it. Obviously she's not real, but like, I guess in similar situations, I've been in similar situations. At that moment, are you Marianne or are you Helen? You know? Are you the obstacle or the goal? Are you a product of circumstance, or were you the one who was destined to be, essentially? And how do you know? And if you are the obstacle, how do you react? That is my question. Another tangent. I remember maybe 2 or 3 years ago. No, wait. Wait. Okay. Yeah. In the summer of 2022, I went to Bible camp. A word that it definitely invokes strong emotions. And I remember I had one person that I knew, who was my roommate, and we would have lectures and then activities. I remember not participating in pretty much any activities. I remember just reading, hiding in my room, on my phone. It was definitely a difficult time for me, given numerous things happening outside the context of this camp. Sort of the confluence of several long-term issues. And I remember it was on one of the last days. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was one of the last days. And there was this sort of meetup / gathering that we were all supposed to do. And I hate big social interactions, big gatherings. I still hate them, but I hated them worse then, and I was also very socially just nervous and awkward, and I wouldn't say that I was particularly liked by anybody or had even one single friend there. And the friend that I went with to the camp, we weren't particularly close, and we didn't interact too much. So really the only person that I had to rely on was, or not rely on, but the only person I really talked to in any meaningful way was my sort of small group instructor. You know, he was in his early 20s. He almost had the same experiences that I did. Not almost the same, but very similar. And I remember really wanting just to stick by him, but he had other things to do. And I talked with him when I could and asked for advice, but ultimately, it was just one kid among very many. And anyway, I remember on the night of that gathering, I had a moment where I said, no, I'm not going. Instead, I walked to the very edge of this college campus that we were staying at, and I just sat down and just looked at the road. There's this barren expanse in front of me, with the building, the edge of the campus to my back, and I just sat and I looked at the road and I put my head in my hands, and I just didn't know what I was doing, or I had no idea what it meant to I didn't feel alone. But I felt overwhelmed by everything, by my room, by the people, by the camp, by everything. I felt overwhelmed by another situation that was happening simultaneously with my in my relationship at the time. I felt my relationship with my parents was beginning to be very, very shaky, was very, very shaky, is still shaky, but at the time was extremely tenuous. I felt abandoned by everything and everyone. I remember two guys, I didn't even see their faces because I was crying, and I just looked down at the ground, and I just thought, and I cried. And I remember them getting me food from the gas station or something. I do not know why they were out in the boondocks where I was, but they were kind. I remember then another guy found me. I'm pretty sure the two guys called him over. He talked to me for a little bit. I can't remember what. Then my instructor came over to me, my small group leader, sorry, and he talked to me for a bit, and I really just wanted to stay there. I didn't want to go, and I'm pretty sure he sat with me for a bit, and maybe he left to go back to the thing, where I went with him back to somewhere, I don't know, and I didn't have anything there. I didn't feel comfortable anywhere. In my room, I have this photo on my big shelf of random memory things. I have clipped to the wall, to the shelf. I have clipped a big photo. There's all the people who participate in the camp, all the students. I remember on the very last day, I remember just walking around, looking at everyone. Everyone had friends, everyone was happy, everyone knew someone. We all got in a big line. I don't know where I was, I don't know who I was next to. I was just told that I got in the line. And I'm short, so I have to be at the front. I remember, obviously, when you take a picture, you have to smile, you have to pose, make a funny pose. I felt like, why? Why am I smiling? Why do I have to make a funny pose? I am broken inside. All of you are together, and I am apart, and why am I here? And even when my parents come to pick me up, I will still be alone. There's nowhere for me, essentially. To be honest, it's very small moments, I think, that help you through tough times. Like one conversation could be the difference between me coming out on the other side with, lessons under my belt, and but there's also a sense of disassociation of like this constant wading through mud, and your mind blocks things out, blocks a sense of awareness of your situation at the time. You're so focused on the pain of of the present that you don't realize this horrible hole that you've fallen into, and you're concerned about only the scrapes and the bruises on your fall, and your brain mercifully protects you from looking up and seeing how far you have to climb up. I honestly think it's a miracle that I got out. And over the summer of 2023, it was definitely that junior year that really, really, I got out of that hole I was in. Not through anything on my part. I think I'm very good at playing the part and putting on the mask. That is such a stupid cliche phrase, but I think for me it's like, just, be friendly, be Gary, whoever Gary is, smile, laugh, make a joke, say something, say nothing, act like a human being. But no, you don't reach out to anyone. No one reaches out to you. In the end, you are a little puppet or a little source of entertainment. It is honestly a miracle that I survived that through sophomore year and into junior year, and that I came out on the other side very small events, very small things really helped me. If I'd kept to myself, I don't know, life would be much different. I struggle to understand how I even came out on the other side. Looking back, in only 3 years, 2 years, actually, it was 3 years. And literally 3 years. To have so much change, so many ups and downs. And yet, I've only looked back on this now, in this moment, to see it doesn't seem um, like I've overcome a lot. But then I look back on the things that I've gone through and how I even managed to, I don't know, perform any semblance or just shrug it off. Yeah, it's astonishing, to be honestly. And I wonder what that means. And now that realization that I didn't look at the big picture. Now I'm trying to look at the big picture of my life right now. And these decisions that I'm making. The things that I think about. Whether I only reach these moments of lucidity very rarely, and that I have to take advantage of it. And these moments of lucidity always happen at the worst possible times. Like right now, when I should be sleeping, when I have shit to do tomorrow, when I'll probably forget. Well, I think my hair is dry enough to go to bed.